have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity.
We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. As if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy.
Silence! The great and powerful Oz knows why you have come.
You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it! My life has value.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature.
Don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts.
And now, Reality Rants with Jason Bermas.
And who loves you? And who do you love?
Hey everybody, Jason Bermas here. And there's a lot to talk about. Right now, it is pretty much official. There is not really going to be a Palestine anymore. That the total relocation of those people is about to happen. Whether I like it, or you like it, or anybody else in the world, whether it be Middle Eastern or European nations likes it, that's what's about to happen. 100%. Okay? Do I like it? I mean, I can't emphasize how upsetting all of this is. And what we're going to do, the meat and potatoes of this bad boy, is that we are going to watch the press conference where they're asked the questions, not the love fest where they sit there and just kind of talk on a post. Now, let me start with Trump in general, all right? Both administrations, despite how it was portrayed in the media, were 100% behind Israel. And at one point, you got, and that's the false left-right paradigm that I always talk about. At one point, you got the Fox News reporter asking Netanyahu who really facilitated the ceasefire. And first of all, Netanyahu looks, I mean, the smirk on his face is also, let me just say, more than troubling to me. He, over and over, tells you about his 3 goals. And those 3 goals do not involve a Palestine ever again. Just telling you that, it's over. And from Trump's perspective, he says, well, just like Ukraine, Russia, October 7th would have never happened under my watch. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think it makes it easier, especially with the weakness that the public Biden administration exuded, right? The Afghanistan withdrawal, all that stuff. In reality, from the very beginning of this, as soon as October 7th happened, I said that this was not, A, going to be a short conflict, okay, and that, B, it wasn't going to end in Gaza. Now, right now, we've got a de-escalation somewhat in the Middle East, but they also talk about the hostages and that exchange, but they never talk about the other side of the story and what that exchange actually means. Okay, there are still a lot of people in Gaza and in Palestine. And it looks like right now they're leaving one way or another. How will Jordan and Egypt act on this? I honestly think someone, Saudi Arabia, they are going to come together and they are going to find a big piece of land and they are going to resettle these people. That's it. This is it. This is it. And let me take it a step further really quickly, where it also gets worrisome to me, is that the evangelicals, they love this. They love this. You know, first of all, politically, it shows that the quote-unquote Greater Israel Project is real. And if you believe that that's real, it's far from over. Which means there's going to be all sorts of other wars of aggression, whether or not Trump thinks this is going to bring peace. And I honestly do think that he thinks that, that basically this is the only way and they're going to bring peace, etc. But that ain't coming easy. I'll tell you that right now. That's aside from the blowback issue, the resistance issue, etc. Because these people, they say they ain't leaving. And boy, when you talk about the hellscape it looks like, the ones that haven't left, they mean it. They mean it. So I'm on the phone with this guy. I'm not going to name his name, but he was a part of the network that I work for currently, not anymore. And the issue of Israel comes up, and I go, look, man, I'm going to be honest, I'm not in love with what they're doing. And he's like, yeah, no, neither am I, but, the Bible says this, and quite frankly, if they don't take even more of that than that, then we got a problem. And I'm sorry, I don't want to play into this religious idea of invoking revelations either. And I know there's some people out there that say it's inevitable, right? Okay, let's not cheer it on. Let's still speak out against the human atrocities that are going on. My God. I mean, what are we thinking here? So I'm going to go down the line on a few stories about this whole thing and some of my concerns, obviously. And then we're going to do the watch along with C-SPAN. And I'm also going to talk about Al Green and what he said today and the articles of impeachment he says he's going to file and where that goes and what my opinion is there. So let's thumbs it up. Subscribe, share. Remember, I'm on the all platforms. I just interviewed Dr. Robert Malone and his wife. I had already interviewed him before. I'm not going to be able to post that to YouTube. That's going to be on the all platforms. At the same time, they just took down the Mel K video. I had to challenge that. Then I got that back. I haven't been remonetized yet. Every little bit helps, everybody. Follow me on X. And in fact, those that can, please, the links are down below. Buy me a coffee. $5, $10, $15. It does mean the world to me. And again, you want to follow me here because that's where we break it. So last night is when I first made commentary on this, that the U.S. will take over and own the Gaza Strip and relocate all Palestinians and send troops into the war zone if necessary. Now, here's the deal. They're already in the war zone. They've been in the war zone since before October 7th. And it's imagination land to think otherwise. That's the reality that nobody wants to talk about. We've been there, okay? And it blows my mind. U.S. Special Forces have deployed to help Israel track down hostages held in Gaza. This is November 1st. But you read it, and they'd already, right here, they'd already had them there. They were running drill activities. Okay, here it is right here. Through Meyer, though Meyer would not reveal how many special forces are in Israel, the New York Times cited other unnamed U.S. officials as saying several dozen have been sent in the past few days. There were already a small team in Israel on October 7th for previously arranged training. Now, Ben Swan, and I just, again, this is why you want to follow me on X. I just retweeted this. He put together a very, very interesting report that asked the real question, who knew what and when? What aspects of this have false flag written all over them? And did you want this to happen so you could militarily take over? Because Palestine's over, everybody, in case you didn't hear. That's really what this meant today. And that's some wild stuff. That's wild. Okay? And that's why I said totally wild. But that's exactly what was projected after this whole thing. And this is where it gets real gross for me. Okay? So check it out. Netanyahu gifted Trump pagers in a bid to mock Lebanon, right? So I'm just going to read this word for word, and I'm going to go further on it. These are the types of things that I vehemently oppose in regards to this or any other administration and their supporters. If you think remote pagers detonating in civilian areas randomly and maiming and murdering people is okay and kind of funny, we are not the same. We're not. You know, that remote pager thing raises all sorts of ethical questions in warfare. I mean, you're waging warfare, all right, not on a quote-unquote terrorist organization, but everybody that surrounds that organization that has no idea the person next to him at the grocery store detonated while there was a big funeral going on for the other people they just murdered. My God. You think that's okay? See, that's the thing. I see people that say people don't give a damn what's going on over there. It could go on here. If they're remote detonating magic little electronic devices, that's not a great thing for anybody. Just like drone warfare, biometric surveillance, not a great thing for everybody. We're all human beings, folks. And that's something that's not taken into account. Now, I will say this before we get into the watch along here in a moment. I have said from the very beginning of this, when it was very apparent, after about 6 months, that there was absolutely no way this is going to get resolved without, again, it's Netanyahu and the whole Israeli team. They're just like, there is no two-state solution anymore. They just kept saying it over and over and over again. I don't know if anybody else was paying attention. And I don't know if anybody else has been paying attention for a while. Israel does what it wants. Yeah, you know, we can act like, you know, free Palestine, all that. It's not pragmatic. Do I like it? No, but that's the real deal. So now what happens? Do I want to see everybody else get slaughtered? No. But let's not lie. Okay, let's not lie and say when you eliminate an entire population, you've ethnically cleansed it, right? So Al Green, who is a weasel in so many respects, got out there, and I watched the speech, and his whole thing on ethnic cleansing part was spot on. But then he utilized it to say he's filing impeachment charges against Trump. Now, to me, this is happening under whatever administration's coming in. Period. Even if Kamala and Barris came in, that's it. That's a wrap. They were just waiting to pass the buck. Okay? So, with that being said, we're going to play this press conference. And there's some tough... I'm going to be stopping it here and there, obviously. I did it instead of capturing it or going grabbing it, I did it directly from C-SPAN because they had the best sound. So without further ado, here it is, Netanyahu and Trump. Here's the deal.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, do you expect phase 2 of the hostage deal to go forward?
Going to talk to you later.
Mr. President, you managed to get this deal done. Some say, a lot of people say that the men who managed to do that should get a Nobel Peace Prize. Do you think that you'll be able to get all the hostages back home? And what would happen if you hear from the Israelis?
They will never give me a Nobel Peace Prize.
What would happen?
It's too bad. I deserve it, but they will never give it to me.
What needs to happen for normalization to go forward? What needs to happen for normalization in Saudi Arabia?
Well, we're going to see, and we're dealing with a lot of people, and we have steps to go yet, as you know, and maybe those steps go forward, and maybe they don't. We're dealing with a very complex group of people, situation and people, but we have the right man, we have the right leader of Israel. He's done a great job, and we've been friends for a long time, and we do a great job also. And I think we have a combination that's very unbeatable, actually.
Can I ask?
So, again, Netanyahu exuding confidence right there. Trump acknowledging, they talk about Saudi Arabia, the rest of the Middle East, that maybe plans go forward, maybe they don't with them. A lot of complex people. I mean, being honest there. That's what I can say. That's what I can say about that exchange.
What would happen, Mr. President, what would happen if you hear...
Wait a minute. Wait. Where is that person? Where's that person coming from? Come on, go. You go.
What would happen if you'll hear from the Israeli side today that they're not willing to go through with the deal to get all the hostages back home and finish the war?
We'll see what happens. Whatever happens, we'll be prepared to handle the situation.
Are the Saudis demanding a Palestinian state?
Mr. President.
No.
Are the Saudis demanding a Palestinian state?
No, they're not. No.
Are they demanding a path towards a Palestinian state or any other recognition
Everybody's
of that
demanding one thing. You know what it is? Peace. We want peace. We want people to stop being killed. But everybody's demanding one thing. Very simple, peace. And he wants peace also.
So, let me just say this again. He's saying that Saudi Arabia is basically giving up on the idea of a Palestinian state. And remember, this peace is a resettlement. And there's really, again, no way to tell where that resettlement is actually going to take place. Let's continue here.
Do you think it's politically possible in Israel to get this deal done until the end?
To get the deal done?
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, is it politically
Why wouldn't a deal get
possible?
done? A deal can get done. We'll see what happens. We're dealing with very complicated people. But a deal can absolutely get done.
President Trump.
an Israeli strike on Iran?
We'll see what happens.
President Trump, I work for Prime Minister Netanyahu. We've heard Joe Biden and Donald Trump take credit for the hostage and ceasefire deal. Who do you think deserves more credit?
I think President Trump added great force and powerful leadership to this effort. I appreciate it. He sent a very good emissary. He's helped it along. And, I'll just tell you, I'm happy that they're here. And I'm sure the president is happy that they're here. And I would think that's about enough.
I mean, again, look at Netanyahu. He is just like exuding confidence. He gives the answer that really the Trump supporters want to hear, the one that's going to be divisive. But let's be also honest. With these article impeachment by Al Green, there's just too many Democrats that are vocally supportive of Israel, where I don't even know that this is going to be the first impeachment that actually goes through, where there's hearings. I would very much doubt that. I think it's going to be symbolic. But let's continue.
President Trump, Prime Minister, what about Elizabeth Shulkov, the Israeli hostage held in Iraq?
What about the Israeli press taking a press conference in Israel and not in Washington?
We would love to take a press conference to interview Prime Minister Netanyahu. A few more questions. Prime Minister Netanyahu, do you support going forward with this deal and getting all the hostages out?
I support getting all the hostages out and meeting all our war goals that include destroying Hamas's military and governing capabilities and making sure that Gaza never poses a threat to Israel again.
Are you willing?
All three.
Are you willing to agree?
So there it is, right again. Like, it's ours. It's over, all three. Their military, in fact, again, that's the scary thing about their military goals is it doesn't stop there. Okay? Now, that blowback situation, very much on the table. That's a real thing. But then you also have the false flag element where you can say it's blowback, and some of it will be because some of the patsies or the ground level people will be people that you recruit because they do hate it. But the people at the top funding it, orchestrating it, intelligence, just point it. You know, it's happened time and 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 time again.
Are you willing to go together?
Are you willing
Can
to
you
agree
promise
to
to the
Trump's
families
vision
that you
to
do
bring
have
all
the
the
hostages out?
I think that I should talk to President
One
Trump,
at a time.
okay?
So I'll ask, do you agree with Trump's vision of getting all the hostages back home, even if it means to end the war?
Well, I'm not sure that you articulate correctly what the president's vision is. You can ask, he can speak for himself. He does that very, very well. I have my own views, 3 goals, not 1, not 2, 3 goals, and I will meet all 3 goals. I think the president can help enormously. He brings fresh thinking. Fresh thinking.
Terrorists who murdered hundreds of people who listed their home as the part of the deal.
It's a horrible thing. We can't forget it. I'll never forget it, and you can't forget it. And some people want to put it out of their memory, but we're not going to ever let that happen. It was a horrible day, October 7th. That was a horrible period of time. And a lot of people like to pretend it didn't happen. It happened. There's a big group of people that like to pretend it didn't happen, like the Holocaust didn't happen. Same mindset.
So let me just stop. I hate it whenever that happens. Whenever there's some kind of like comparison to Holocaust denial or the idea that people that question the event pretend it didn't happen. I know damn well it happened. You think I like watching disco kids getting kidnapped and shot at? The conversations, I mean, me and my brother were like, you know, how do they start World War III? And we thought that could be a real sparking point. Now, again, I honestly do believe that Trump thinks that he's coming in and being the peacemaker here, 100%. But that methodology and that idea, it leaves more than a sour taste in my mouth.
No, we're going to get this thing wrapped up, and we're going to get it done. We're also dealing, I think, very successfully with Russia, Ukraine. We're going to hopefully get that one done at some point in the not too distant future. That's a complex problem also. But we solve problems. When I left, we had no problem. There was no Ukraine and Russia fighting. There was no October 7th. There was nothing. And some very poor leadership led to a lot of problems and a lot of death. And it's a shame, but we'll put it out. We'll put out the fires. We have a lot of fires, but we'll put them out.
Mr. President, why do you still support the Palestinian state like the peace plan you presented in January 2020? Is this plan still on the table?
Well, a lot of plans change with time, and a lot of death has occurred since I left and now came back. This death occurred not while I was here, but while somebody else was here. It shouldn't have happened. They shouldn't have allowed it to happen. It would have never happened, and that includes Russia, Ukraine would have never happened. Not even a little bit, not even a chance. But now we are faced with a situation that's different, in some ways better and in some ways worse. But we're faced with a very complex and difficult situation, but we'll solve the problem.
So once again, there you go. He brings up the fact that Trump had been behind a two-state solution. But like I said, as soon as Netanyahu and everybody else said it was off the table, I knew it was off the table. And now it's off the table. I mean, Trump just told you right there. It's off. He tells you more in this. It's off the table.
If not Jordan, Egypt, what other countries you think might accept Palestinians from Gaza?
Well, I think Jordan and Egypt will. I know they've spoken about it with you, and they say they're not going to accept. I say they will. But I think other countries will accept also. I think that Gaza maybe is a demolition site right now. If you look at Gaza, there's hardly a building standing, and the ones that are going to collapse. You can't live in Gaza right now, and I think we need another location. I think it should be a location that's going to make people happy. You look over the decades, it's all death in Gaza. This has been happening for years. It's all death. If we can get a beautiful area to resettle people permanently in nice homes and where they can be happy and not be shot, not be killed, not be knifed to death like what's happening in Gaza. And right now you have in Gaza a very dangerous situation in terms of explosives all over the place, in terms of tunnels that nobody knows who's in the tunnel. The whole thing is a mess. And I think that if we can resettle, and I believe we can do it in areas where the leaders currently say no. I mean, I've been saying that with Mexico, having to do with the border and all of the things, and you saw what happened, 10,000 soldiers, and they're going to do a good job. I really believe that, and I believe Canada is going to do a good job also. They said the same thing, and then they did something much different than what you were hearing. This is a very, very difficult situation, but we're going to get it solved. I don't think people should be going back to Gaza. I think that Gaza has been very unlucky for them. They've lived like hell. They lived like you're living in hell. Gaza is not a place for people to be living. And the only reason they want to go back, and I believe this strongly, is because they have no alternative. What's the alternative? Go where? There's no other alternative. If they had an alternative, they'd much rather not go back to Gaza and live in a beautiful alternative that's safe.
All right, so let's talk about it. I'm going to say it again. I think Trump thinks he's doing the right thing here. And by the way, I think that, number one, he's right. They will find a place to, quote unquote, resettle what's left of these people after God knows what happens. But it needs to be stressed. It is no longer if, but when and where these people are resettled and what that actually looks like. And they also have made it clear it's not like wherever they resettle, it's going to be a new nation state run by them. They're about to be absorbed by another nation state or maybe multiple Arab nation states. Period. Now, let me agree with something Trump said. The majority of Gaza, yeah, it's not fit for humans to live in. Okay? And because it has been basically an open-air concentration camp. Now, whether or not to those people, they feel like they have nowhere else to go is a moot point. Because this has been outward imperialism in the modern day enabled by our military-industrial complex and our alliances, 100%. So let's keep going.
Peter?
Would Palestinians have the right to return to Gaza if they left while the rebuilding was happening?
It would be my hope that we could do something really nice, really good, where they wouldn't want to return. Why would they want to return? The place has been hell. It's been one of the meanest, toughest places on earth. And right now, I've seen every picture from every angle, better than if I were there. And nobody can live there. You can't live there. So if we can build them through massive amounts of money supplied by other people, very rich nations, and they're willing to supply it. If we can build something for them in one of the countries, and it could be Jordan, it could be Egypt, it could be other countries, and you could build 4 or 5 or 6 areas. It doesn't have to be one area, but you take certain areas and you build really good quality housing, like a beautiful town, like someplace where they can live and not die. Because Gaza is a guarantee that they're going to end up dying. The same thing's going to happen again. It's happened over and over again, and it's going to happen again as sure as you're standing there, Peter. So I hope that we could do something where they wouldn't want to go back. Who would want to go back? They've experienced nothing but death and destruction.
If Egypt and Jordan tell you no, what will you do then?
Well, I don't think they're going to tell me no.
I don't think they're going to tell me no. Now, you see, right out of the gates there, he has mentioned 4 or 5 locations. How quick can you build that type of infrastructure? And as they are resettled, where do they stay? And again, what does this mean for militant groups? I mean, you look at Netanyahu, he can't wait. And look, people like Trump's son-in-law, they're frothing at the mouth. They're frothing at the mouth for that beachfront property.
I don't think they're going to tell. I think they're going to tell Biden no, and I think they're going to tell other people no.
So you think it will happen at the end?
I think there's a good chance. Yeah.
How many people are you thinking about?
All of them. I mean, we're talking about probably 1.7 million people, 1.7 million, maybe 1.8 million. But I think all of them. I think they'll be resettled in areas where they can live a beautiful life and not be worried about dying every day.
Wait.
No.
Mr. President,
Yeah.
you support building settlements, Jewish settlements back in Gaza in the next years?
Say it.
Building settlements, Jewish settlements back in Gaza in the next year. Do you support this idea?
I don't see it happening. It's too dangerous for people. Nobody can go there. It's too dangerous. Nobody wants to be there. Warriors don't want to be there. Soldiers don't want to be there. How can you have people go back? You're saying go back into Gaza now? The same thing's going to happen. It'll only be death. The best way to do it is you go out and you get beautiful, open areas with the sunlight coming through, and you build something nice. And they are not going to want to. They are not going to want to go back to Gaza.
Prime Minister Netanyahu, what is your message to the families of the hostages that look at this deal, they're worried that this...
Now, I mean, dude, look at that guy. Look at that guy. Sometimes people do wear who they are on their face. Just, my goodness. How much money does it cost to build the infrastructure for 2 million people? I live in Iowa. There are 3 million people here. I mean, again, is it better than death and destruction all day, every day? Not here to argue that. But 2 million people. And you have to build, first you have to find a place where it's going to be okay. Then you have to build that infrastructure in a multitude of areas. Then you have to look at a timeline of how you house, clothe, and feed them. And then once you build that infrastructure, that town, where's everybody working? Like, what is happening?
Deal won't go through. What do you say to them in this moment?
Same message I said from the beginning of the war. We'll get them out, get them back. We got over 70%, close to 75% of the people who everybody believed will not get out. We got them in successive deals, and most recently with the help of President Trump. We're not going to give up on any of them, and we're not going to give up on our other war aims. Hamas is not going to be in Gaza, and we're going to get everyone back.
And you would not have...
How optimistic are you about reaching phase 2 of the ceasefire? How optimistic are you about that happening?
Well, we're going to try. That's one of the reasons, one of the things we're going to talk about here. And if we, you know, when Israel and the United States work together, and President Trump and I work together, you know, the chances go up a lot. It's when we don't work together, Israel and the United States don't work together, that creates problems. When the other side sees daylight between us, and occasionally in the last few years, to put it mildly, they saw daylight, then it's more difficult.
It's a false narrative as he smirkles. And he placates to Trump's ego there, too. Boy, never would have happened if Donnie T were around. They saw weakness. You see how I talked about that narrative from the beginning because it's a false one.
When we cooperate,
isn't it the right
chances
time
are
to
good.
hit once and for all?
Say it.
Now that Iran is so weak, isn't it the right time to hit their nuclear facilities once and for all?
So you say Iran is so weak. I appreciate you saying that. They're not weak. They're very strong right now, and we're not going to allow them to have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. You know, I signed a very strong proclamation. Iran was in big trouble when I left. They were broke. They didn't have money for Hamas. They didn't have any money for Hezbollah. You had no problem. October 7th could have never happened. When I left, October 7th could have never happened. And frankly, Russia and Ukraine, as I said, could never have happened. They became very strong very fast. They sold massive amounts of oil to China and everybody else who would not buy the oil when I was president, because we said, don't buy the oil. And they became very rich very quickly. But they're not weak. They're not weak. They're strong. Doesn't mean they won't be weak. But you know what? We just don't want them to have a nuclear weapon. They can't have a nuclear weapon.
The Prime Minister, sorry, Mr. President, the Prime Minister wants you to strike Iran. That's what he wants.
You don't know what he wants. What do you know about anything? Go ahead.
The Prime Minister wants you to strike Iran. You don't know what he wants. You don't know anything. Look. First of all, Iran's a whole nother cup of tea. Because nuclear weapon or not, they have a first world military. Let's not F around and find out there. All right? But again, these false narratives of we were weak and they didn't have money and blah, blah, blah. They're also aligned with Russia. You know, and that's how this thing becomes a really ugly global conflict. Uglier than it already is, which is making me extremely upset if you haven't noticed.
But is that option on the table?
Yes, please.
President Trump, is that option on the table?
You're not just talking about Jordan and Egypt. No, could be other places too. There are many people that have reached out, many countries, many leaders of countries that have reached out that would like to participate in that. Doesn't have to be Jordan and Egypt, but I think it would be also them.
And Mr. President, your relationship with Mr. Netanyahu knew ups and downs. How do you describe it?
No, I think it's mostly ups.
Mr. President, what about the Palestinian Authority? Should you rule Gaza? Because Gaza will be empty?
What?
The Palestinian Authority, can it rule Gaza? What do you think?
Well, it's had a pretty hard time, wouldn't you say? I'd say it's had a pretty bad time of it.
Mr. President, Qatar has, you've criticized in the past as a funder of terrorism, so as the Prime Minister, do you think they're part of the solution or part of a problem moving forward?
I think they're trying to help. Qatar is absolutely trying to help. I know them very well, and they're doing everything they can. Very tough situation, but they're absolutely trying to help. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
So there it is. You watched it. I watched it. I mean, again, it's on. That's it. Gaza's done. Palestine is done. There is no there's not from this day forward, you can expect Palestine to be named in historical terms. Now, whether that happens in 6 months or 12 months or 18 months, it's going to happen during this administration. So, buckle up, everybody. We knew 2025 was going to be a wild ride, but here we go. Guys, I need your support. The links are down below. You see the Buy Me a Coffee, 5, 10, 15. It means the world to me. Salty Savage, thank you so much. CJ, X, I can't say, what's that? Hedvig Checktucks, thank you, thank you, thank you. Couldn't do it without you. Please spread the love, spread the links. Go check out the documentary films. Loose Change Final Cut, Fabled Enemies. That's where you'll learn about 9/11. By the way, Kurt Weldon making a return. We should do a really big video on how Kurt Weldon says the 9/11 files and much more. Anthony Schaefer also. Things on Able Danger are going to be coming out. See, that's a positive on the administration. But let's not forget, Bibi Netanyahu said there's one thing that's working out for Israel that's a positive, and that was 9/11. It's about 6 or 7 years after 9/11, by the way. Pretty sure it was in that range. Again, it's in the documentary films. Go check out Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, and Shade the Motion Picture as well. You know the drills. I love you guys. We'll see you on the flip side.